Dr. Mpacho, u breaky. Inti Mpacho obeso obehwe ni ya na u breaky yente de woka no. Thank you.
All right, I apologize. We had some technical difficulties. I hope that it's much better now. Stream no airflow, and it's not cutting off.
Bachan, it's better now.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So back to what I was saying, it's more about International Women's Week. So I wanted a topic relate now I think so yet me and komo. And so the topic I chose menstrual pain and relief. So menstrual pain in medical term we term with the man dysmenorrhea. And see, during my speech, if I switch from menstrual pain to dysmenorrhea, is the same thing I'm talking about. And say, if I switch back and forth. So first of all, you better describe what's dysmenorrhea, which is menstrual cramp or menstrual pain. So a medical term, like I said, that we use for a painful menstrual periods. Most of the time, painful menstrual period comes with other symptoms, and so which we will talk about. Nausea, fatigue, diarrhea. But the main one we want to focus on this evening, the pain associated with it. What actually causes the pain? Then I prevent the pain, and then also some of the treatments are to minimize the amount of pain that we are experiencing with our periods. So science of course there are two types of painful periods. The first one, they call it the primary dysmenorrhea, and then the second one is the secondary dysmenorrhea. It's kind of self-explanatory because the primary, there's no other cause to be other than say, nipano ebebe in the time of the month, maybe a couple days before, they will start feeling some cramps and some pains, and then right after the period ends, that pain goes away. And then our obrody friend and that's a sign for a friend of primary dysmenorrhea. Now the secondary one, most of the time, there is an underlying cause to be, and now a period in the time, pain ever. Some of them may be said there's an issue with your reproductive organs. You may have maybe to say endometriosis, and now say you may have maybe some swelling, adenomyosis. A friend is saying, "Why would you anymore?" And I say it could be associated with fibroids, and I say other forms of cancer. Maybe or doctor has not come up with it yet. And two types of painful menstruation. The primary one is just a natural cause because period, it can be painful for some people. The level of pain, it differ. But if the painful period, it's only because you say you are having your period. That is what we refer to as a primary dysmenorrhea. Now, the secondary one, like I said, there is an underlying cause. So until that underlying cause has been treated, you will continue to have that painful menstruation every month. Obibusa say is having dysmenorrhea and that's a painful menstruation. Is this something that is normal? It is very normal. Research stressed that about 60% of people were mild to moderate dysmenorrhea around their time of period. About 5 to 15%, and so describe a very severe. But most of the time, the common one, the primary dysmenorrhea, the common painful period it's mostly due to the fact that the chemicals that are released around the time period causes the muscles or the lining of the uterus to contract. To during those contractions, that's when you feel like say you are having pain. So the pain is more associated with the release of chemicals around that time of your period. So what are some of the symptoms when you are having that cramps? And I say you are having dysmenorrhea. Like I said before, there are chemicals. One of the chemicals that are notorious for causing that dysmenorrhea is called prostaglandin. So what happens is during a time or period, there are a lot of hormones and a lot of chemicals playing different roles at the time or cycle. During the 28 days, there are different chemicals that body. Now, that particular one causes pain, which is called the prostaglandin. What happens, and they say, right before the shedding of your endometrium, if you look at a picture of the inside of the vagina, the endometrium is the lining of your uterus. So there's a tissue a lining the uterus. Now, bosumi when when the egg is released and it's not fertilized, that's it was set out as a period. So the endometrium sheds, shed outside. And that's why you see, blood in this eba. But in case of obia or dysmenorrhea, before the shedding of the blood, before the shedding of the endometrium, prostaglandin, the chemical is released in such a high amount to say it starts contracting the uterus. It's also a couple days before complaining, and after there are some sharp pains to be going on. It's all due to chemical prostaglandin. It will keep contracting the uterus in such a way say ama endometrium it's me ashede to come out. Now, the question is, why are the period cramps so painful? So the reason why it's painful is the feeling of contraction, which is the tightening, and then the relaxing of your uterus, and your muscles, and that you're dealing with. So say obia what will naturally does what can what that contraction feeling, and said that you won't describe or say a painful, but at the same time you say a painful because there's the tightening and then the relaxing of the uterus. It's exactly the same that is happening to obia or dysmenorrhea at that time. Some of the symptoms, I think we've gone over some of them. You have an aching or throbbing pain in your abdomen, feeling of pressure in your abdomen. Sometimes, pain can even go through your back, your lower back, and then you inside of your thighs. You may even feel some of the pain. And now, because of the prostaglandins that are released in high amounts, you can also experience nausea, dizziness, and also headache. Like I said, the common one, which is the primary dysmenorrhea, most people almost suffer from that. The pain starts maybe 2 or 3 days before their actual period. And then once the period ended, all of a sudden the pain vanished. Compared to secondary dysmenorrhea, normally it starts like the pain started even at the very beginning of their cycle. But the intensity, it intensifies as the person gets closer to the actual bleeding, the time of menstruation. Let me go back and make sure that I clarify this. Obia and primary, the onset of their pain, it's usually 72 hours, 48 or 24 hours before the actual flow of blood. But Obia and secondary, most of the time, I shall see a longer time, a week or two before certain period, and that pain, it increases, gradually increases as chemicals in our body, it changes, it increases, and most of the time, even though the pain subsides, there's still a feeling of pain, a little bit of pain until say the next cycle will come again. If that makes sense. So mono pain and shut down away 100%. It linger around and then it comes back, it maximizes, it lowers, and then it comes back again. Those are people that are more underlying problems. If you don't deal with that underlying problem, they will continue to suffer from this dysmenorrhea until say it has been dealt with. Most encra almost starting with painful period, almost taboo among santem. Science of what you're saying, from almost taboo before the age of 12, they do experience a lot of this pain. And I feel so experience, like some of the underlying causes maybe secondary, or a problem with the endometrium, which is the lining of the uterus, or more condition be a friend of endometriosis. So endometriosis, the line of the uterus, it's growing outside of the uterus. So you have a lining that is growing outside where it's supposed to grow. So those people, the way you will deal with their treatment, will be a little bit different from obia or primary. And then there's another condition called adenomyosis, which means that the lining of your uterus, it's growing into the muscle of your uterus. So endometriosis, you're growing outside of your uterus. So that the lining is growing outside the uterus. And then the adenomyosis is the total opposite of it. It's growing into the muscles of your uterus. See, those and crofono, the pain will continue to remain until there's a solution to the underlying condition now or more. Obi also suffer from fibroids. Some fibroids it doesn't bother people. It comforts me live with fibroids until they pass away. And any issue be but there are other people also almost also it overgrows and then it grows to the outside of their uterus, which affects some of the muscles and the linings Nyankopon created uterus. For those people who have more side problems, they also need to tackle the fibroids, maybe get a removal of the fibroids, and then once the fibroids are removed, then they can also not experience the pain associated with a period. Another one is an inflammatory disease we called pelvic inflammatory disease. And it's caused by a bacteria. Bacteria starts in your uterus, and then it can spread out to your other reproductive organs, to say fallopian tube, any baby ovaries. What happens when you get infected, those areas inflame. Once you have an inflamed area, period all those chemical imbalance, chemical prostaglandin are affected, so that you have more pain associated with the timer ubebu unsa moja ebebano. Other forms, no, it's not very common. Obu ohonoma or cancer, and I say obu ohonoma yewo or a idea like a congenital condition. Obu ohonoma ni ovary, no, the way obey no. There's a problem with it. Obu ha fallopian tube. There's a problem with how nyankopon no. So those people no a condition and their treatment no quite different. Who is more likely to have dysmenorrhea? A crowd before the age of 12. Most of the time, no, say, oh, you're younger than 20. Now you are still younger than 20. You may experience dysmenorrhea. Obia ni period very heavy and lasts very long. And I say it lasted longer than 7 days, almost so it's dysmenorrhea, no. And people who smoke, thankfully, as the 4 years smoking, that's not a huge problem. And then people are more parents, or more mommy, when mommy is so sano. Now mommy what that problem no, a also can also take that problem from the parent. So a day and a doctor who say it be a problem I will have a primary and I say a secondary. You always have to go to your OBGYN and make sure say you better check your or pelvic exam to make sure say is it inflammatory disease now or and I say a endometriosis, so they can rule out all those secondary issues, So once the secondary issues are ruled out, then they can say, so okay, so your issue is just strictly primary. Iti enono ebe buo mo amamehu ekwan befa so a be treaty o issue no e de ama. Now omo secondary problem no, then the doctors will do further tests. If you're like ultrasound, I will be the option to do a hysterectomy. For you to have, a normal sense of life. During a period that they cannot function. It's a life, that how they want to cooperate with life, it makes it uncomfortable. It's my doctor hysterectomy to see if removing the entire thing will be a better solution for you. And also sometimes they will have you do a laparoscopy just to make sure say BBA or pelvic organs is intact. So how do we manage and how do we treat menstrual pain? Luckily for us, menstrual pain, most of them it's not by prescription. You can actually go to CVS or Walgreens over the counter and then buy any NSAIDs, like non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, ibuprofen or naproxen. Those treating it very well. Now, for those people they're not able to take NSAIDs, to say ibuprofen or naproxen, they are able to take like Tylenol. Tylenol should do the work for those people. Now, because I said most of the time, prostaglandin and MAR pain affected the line and my line and inflamed if you are able to take any anti-inflammatory drug, they are much better than just taking Tylenol, because it will also deal with bringing inflammation and what will uterus down, so it can relieve you of some of the pain you're feeling. Sometimes, if the over-the-counter medications, some doctors will prefer hormonal medications. So, hormonal medications is birth control. Birth control pills. So, and I said the patch or the birth control ring, just to make sure that it regulate the hormones are released during the time when you have a period. Instead of be balancing in such a way that the pain feeling will be reduced. So other ways ubetumi other non-medical ways to reduce menstrual cramps. Ubetumi use a heating pad or a hot water bottle. See, during the time you're in pain, or you can put that on your abdomen or your back. And as a baby, I will feel it, the most cramps, you can put it there to get some relief. And then also getting extra rest. So utimi resti enough and also eboa. Avoiding foods that contain caffeine, coffee, those soda are high in caffeine. We need to avoid it around that time. If you are somebody who smokes or drink, you want to deter from these things. And also, so it's me bois so it will help reduce the total inflammation in our body more. Just by ceasing smoking and then alcohol. Sometimes also, so if we will be able to massage your cheek and then abdomen, it also helps with the pain. And then last but not the least, we have regular exercise. So with me, getting in a habit of exercising regularly, and also so to me, it reduces the amount of pain you have with your period. Other alternatives, you can practice yoga, relaxation or breathing exercises, and then eating food or body inflamed all the time, like green leafy vegetables, ginger are very good, ginger nuts, and then also drinking green tea, and also bois. And then you can also supplement with vitamin D and magnesium. A lot of study, a lot of women issue, like a reproductive issue with vitamin D and magnesium, especially so we don't get enough vitamin D. So if we can supplement vitamin D and magnesium, and also so eboa. Dysmenorrhea, is it something that you can prevent? There be untimi and prevent it. The way Nyankopon bo nipa jiano, these chemicals are needed for you to have a cycle and for you to be able to have children. But most of the time, primary, most of the time, that dysmenorrhea echo altogether. After first childbirth, once the pain in echo. So there's not a way to prevent it unless I would need a secondary. If it's a secondary, then you have to treat the underlying cause. Once you treat the underlying cause, now the pain will also go away. I know said Makasa about 32 minutes. I will open the floor for questions, and then the more questions that comes, the more we will learn from each other. And then open the door for questions.
Mama Sepa. Now, solutions to wedding. So if you're Ghana, Nkofu will prescribe some herbal or some traditional medicines for those. I don't know if you have any idea about it. How effective are those traditional measures and herbal will prescribe them?
Okay, all right, very good question. By profession, I'm a pharmacist, so I deal mostly with medications. Conventional medications, because it goes through a whole lot of process to figure out the therapeutic dose of the medication. Say, be offer this dose and then a buani pediano into the ayana and mame go towards more of the conventional one. I don't rule out herbal medication because There are some herbs being so high a year jumapa. But then the problem becomes to say, how do you know, say, you are taking the therapeutic dose of the medication? Because the line between a therapeutic dose and going into a poisonous dose, no, very, very little. When it comes to herbal medication, unless that there are some studies that is back and said, okay, so if I 1 teaspoon, is good for me. I think that if there are studies backing those use of medication, then they should go for it. But if there's no studies, my question is, how do you distinguish between, say, this is the right dose for me and this is not the right dose for me? Because you don't also want to poison your body. And I know, say, back in the days, they were very knowledgeable when it comes to herbal medication. It is say, obi person use and they have a back and say it works. I always advise to say use it moderately and start taking the baby at a time. Start slow and then see say, okay, at this point, if I take 10 ml dose of this particular draw in a liquid form, and then you stick with that. Say, unim how much dose I obefa, and I say, unim a journal, the aquaquia body more. I would say stay away from it and go with the conventional medications. Who studies, I go through clinical research. I hope I have answered your question.
Dr. Mpacho, M say obi di bibia to chat in him say obi to me Asha. Thank you.
I'll tell you. 1 second. I heard taking pain relief such as actually causes endometriosis since it's affecting the action of prostaglandins. How true is that? Okay, very good question. Very, very good question. It actually depends on how often and the amount that you want to take. Endometriosis, it's not exactly linked to taking NSAIDs, which is the non-steroidal medication. The natural cause of the body, is to produce that prostaglandin. There will be some form of contraction to get rid of the lining because you don't want any old lining still in your uterus. So for it to help get rid of the lining. And the argument comes to say, so if you take an NSAID which battles with the prostaglandin production, are you actually getting rid of the lining, the true lining? The answer is yes. There's not any substantial evidence offer NSAID to treat or dysmenorrhea. It will cause you to have endometriosis. The endometriosis to have endometriosis, it's about the growth of the lining of the uterus. It's not about the removal of the lining. So I don't know if I'm explaining it very well. It's about how it's growing. Is it growing outside the uterus or is it growing inside the uterus? But the removal, prostaglandin helps push it out. But at the same time, if it's too much, because some people have overproduction of it, those people with overproduction, it's okay to take NSAID. NSAID will help bring that pain down, and still at the same time, remove the lining or uterus to come out. So there's not anything beyond that links NSAID used to endometriosis. Though the people are more experiencing more pain. Everybody produces prostaglandin at the time it was a obunensa. Ye produce to be. But some people, normal production is very high, so they experience maximum pain with it. Taking NSAID to reduce it, it won't change the fact that I'm still the line and will be shed. I hope that it answers your question. I do have my more than 7 days, and also with a heavy flow. Did a scan and was told I had. Okay. I was okay. I said more than 7 days and heavy flow. No, I immediately linked it to fibroids. Fibroid, they are very notorious for that. The first, if it's not bothering you, say idea and bother like pain wise, or if you're having intercourse with your partner, if it's not bothering you, maybe you don't want to tackle or go through any myomectomy for them to remove it, and you can deal with it, fine. But if you choose that route now, you also want to make sure that there are some things you are checking, especially your iron level. You want to make sure that you're anemic all the time, because fibroid, it's me train iron in our body. So you want to make sure that you're checking your iron levels frequently. If you need, if friend say iron, you're getting some iron infusion every now and then for 5 weeks so that you can replenish your body, because if you don't remove the fibroid, it's having your menses for 3 days. Okay, but I'll come to your question, Sister Ruth. If you do not remove it, I want yet myomectomy, and I said hysterectomy. I don't know exactly where your fibroids are located, but depending on the location of it, maybe a Dr. Becker say, oh, I can just go in there. Now they have like robotic surgeries, and the robots will just go in, maybe 4 or 5 small holes, and then robots will go in, take the fibroids out, and then they will sew you back up again. And I said, if it's spread everywhere, almost okay, hysterectomy will be the better choice for you. I think that you should consider both, and with whichever choice that you choose, just know the pros and cons of it and try to tackle it. Like I said, if you keep it up, your iron levels are very important to check all the time. And yes, it beats me another problem along the line. Let's see. The other question was, is having your menses for 3 days okay? Okay. It is okay. There's no problem with having your menses for 3 days. When you look at the menstrual cycle now, the average person menstrual cycle is 28 days. Now, the 28 days now is measured from the first day you have your period until the next day I'll have your period. So if I say, period, you had your period on the 1st, and then the next time you have your period is on the 28th, then we say you have a 28-day cycle. And see, from that 28 days, on average, there are 4 different phases you go through and sanamoja no aba. So the first phase, I will go through. That first phase, is when you actually see blood coming out. And it lasted for about 3 to 5 or 7 days. So between 3 to 7 days, that cycle, that first cycle happens. While that cycle is going on, there's another second cycle, and also on the follicular phase. During the follicular phase, is when the ovaries chemicals it needs to mature that ovary. During that follicular phase, the chemical is maturing the ovary, and then you go into what we call the ovulation state. Ovulation phase, it lasts about 24 to 48 hours, 1 to 2 days. Now, the follicular phase, it lasts about 14 days. starting from the time obebu nsano. And so from ovulation state, that's when the matured egg, every ovaries nemo aquacoto fallopian tube. So it will be the egg, will be matching in the fallopian tube to find its way into the uterus. So at that time, there was uterus anymore. The lining of your uterus, which is the endometrium, I thick, ready for implantation. Into around your ovulation stage, say only your husband Asia, na say the sperm share with egg now it's me fertilize ya. Implantation can occur with uterus anymore. When implantation occurs, and then moja biya into moja will not come. That's when you find out when you say. Now, obia ononi dieno enshia bema hunsuno. When it gets into the uterus, egg uterus nimusa just looking for a sperm to fertilize it. Send a baby or be implanted. So if no implantation happen, what happened is the egg abeto fallopian tube all the way into your uterus, including the lining, the endometrium na thick, all of it needs to come out of your body. So a new cycle will happen. Into the question said, if you have your period more than for 3 days, is it normal? Very normal. Maybe, after 3 days, everything has come out. All the lining, all the egg now fertilized, and the meaning now out. After that, you should be okay. But if you're having your period, if it's 3 days consistently, I would say yes. But Liafan said this month, 5 days. Next month, it'll be 2 days. The other month, 1 day. Then you may want to see an OBGYN. The other question is, what's the best iron supplement I can take? Because I do look pale sometimes with hemoglobin of 8.5. Okay, so a lot of for especially free African, we have issues with iron power. Now, if your iron is 8.5, most of the time, I say, if you are seeing a primary doctor, I think that you should get a referral to see an oncologist, and I say a hematologist. Most of the time, they are a hematologist, oncologist. A jumano like together, almost blood issues and then the cancer, this and the maniamano. And get a thorough review of your anemia. You will come to find out to say, most of the time, if your hemoglobin is 8.5, if you take tablets as supplement, if I say over-the-counter tablets now, unless that tablet, you are taking it with vitamin C, and that's orange juice, and that's a bibisa. If you are taking over-the-counter iron, and it says, you're trying to say milligram, let's say 375 milligram nawofa. So one with insu, now your body doesn't have enough vitamin C for a drone to be activated into your blood. You're not absorbing that 375 milliliter. It will go in your body and then it will still come out. The absorption will not be up to par to so be or vitamin C in their body. And 8.5, most doctors, most hematologists will have you on an iron infusion therapy. They will do iron infusion therapy for 5 weeks. Into every week you go, they give you a small IV, maybe I want some say no push or mama iron push. And no ebwa to bring your iron level up. And then from there, you can take the tablets to supplement and add on. But from 8.5, what percent will free 8.5 to go to 13 and up, which is the normal now. It will probably take you forever until you need a boost. You need a boost unless that you deliberately say, okay, I'm going to make sure say me num beet juice in the morning, maybe 3 times a day, beet juice, and that's a midi one more fruit your friends a pomegranate. And I said you intentionally say medriani midi, I'm going to make sure that I'm eating all green leafy vegetables. You will definitely need a boost of a 5-week iron therapy. And then you can supplement with the iron tablets, And I think there was another question too. Is hysterectomy biblical if you have battled endometriosis for years and can't take any hormonal contraceptions because of prolonged bleeding? Hey, very good question. Is hysterectomy biblical? The question where they said, I just said, my husband, and so because the life, I don't think that God wants us to suffer. I don't think that young people per se you suffer. The suffering and then emoji a bit too no during the month. It's like a mama cry. They are not themselves, and I don't think that Onyankopon wants Sandy Panel to continue to suffer if he has made some opportunity for Sandy Panel to have a relief. And then the hysterectomy, you don't have to do a total hysterectomy. You can do it in such a way that your ovaries are still kept in there. And say in case a nipano, or say in the future, or person having their own children. There are so many different types. In order Solano, so maybe she won't be able to carry a crown, but there could be somebody like a surrogate. A crown using on one kasane egg, and then it be a husband and as a partner, and so a sperm to create a human being. And see, I don't think that. I don't know. The answer is I don't know, but I also don't think that Yankopon wants us to suffer.
Sister Mama Bambio, aware of any studies and practices what consider imbalance between estrogen and progesterone. Or believe, in fact, we increase progesterone level over estrogen or solve a lot of these problems, even fibroid and other fertility problems. I don't know if you are aware of those studies, Anna.
I'm not on top of my head right now, but I do understand where you're coming from, and I understand your question. The chemical, the balancing of chemicals and as a hormones and where your body, which the two primary ones, is the estrogen and then the progesterone. Now, your life cycle, there are some times that one of them should be higher than the other, and there are some periods progesterone need to be higher in the body than the estrogen. But when it comes to enyama, there are so many factors, including environment, a lot of things, a dry, all of those things play a role in how those chemicals are released in our body. I do know that there are some specialty pharmacies that they deal specifically with hormones. Now then it becomes the synthetic hormones no also creating when they try to supplement it to other patients or more hormonal imbalance issues yes, it will give them some relief, but then the long-term side effects also is there. So it's kind of a dicey area to be in. The estrogen and then the progesterones that we sell in the pharmacies, they are not natural ones. And yet it's not natural. Most of them they produce it in such a way that mimic it the natural one, but it's still synthetic. And see, it has this horns. And sometimes, depending on the use of it, once not the cons, outweigh the benefits. People that misuse it, they end up getting a lot of different forms of cancer. I don't have any extensive research on it yet, but maybe if opportunity ever, I can look into it and then we can have a more in-depth discussion about it.
So for mommy,
what you are saying, if like progesterone, you can get a natural means of the body inducing the body to produce more progesterone. Naturally, it might be safer and help you in so many directions.
Yes, if you can get the natural body need to produce it, I think that it will be far better than going with the synthetic form,
And this circumstance, maybe some of these studies they talk about Bayer being a major source.
Bayer, it has a lot of estrogen, yes.
No, in fact, they talk about it the new progesterone levels very high.
Okay.
Yes. And help in solving some of the problems.
Yes.
But
it's very true. It's very true. Bayer studies yet. I did one when I was in pharmacy school. There's a small town, I forgot what the country was, where Omudi Bayer party, a lot of the women there, they had multiple births. So it's me fall naturally at the same time. And it was all linked to the fact that now Bayer a very predominant diet. Yeah, so it's true. So if you can get the natural form now, I know you're far better than going the synthetic tablets and injections. It will give you that short-term relief, but the long-term side effects, it needs to be looked at.
Really, ma'am, so for mommy, Patromi Musa, follow-up question. Let's just say, in fact, so what history of say breast cancer who is estrogen positive or no? Bayer is not a good source for them because that
Bayer would not. That is correct. Bayer would not be a good choice for them.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other foods that get high content of estrogen will be to me a share.
One second, please. Let me go into my quick high content.
And that's it.
Okay, so this is coming from WebMD. Okay, so they have this listed flax seeds. Flax seeds, I'm not sure say it's high in estrogen. Actually, it's high in phytoestrogen. So there are different forms of estrogen. So they're also looking at soy. The number 3 is peaches. They have garlic. And says in Pacho, who say Bibiana it's in moderation. It doesn't mean that don't go and eat, because garlic also will have its benefit. You know, it will lower your cholesterol, reduce blood pressure and things like that. So everything Bibiano is in moderation. And then number 6 on my list is sesame seeds, some nuts, to say cashews, almonds, peanuts. So far, this is the list I have come across on WebMD. So
Thank you very much, Midasi.
you're very welcome.
Okay. I want to help Nipano Bisa question about hysterectomy. No?
Hysterectomy.
Scientific words no be na so now the 7-day Adventist our stance on such things. Now person read some few statements, you know, I'm reading from a statement, the General Conference release, and number 3.1, and there's my 4 aspects I the bedroom when we are. Number 1, a responsible stewardship. Number 1, statement how I release a responsible stewardship. Well, see, God created human beings in his own image, male and female, with capacity to think and to make decisions. Isaiah 1:18 and Joshua 24:15. You can also confirm it from Deuteronomy 30:15-20. God gave human being dominion over the earth. This dominion requires overseeing and caring for nature. Christian stewardship also requires taking responsibility for human procreation. Sexuality as one of the aspects of human nature over which the individual has stewardship is to be expressed in harmony with God's will. The opportunity said, Yankopon amai to me ewo abodie so. Na amai yansa so say yetimi adding engine for the best decision that is for the family now. I was say yes say decision I be no. Does it align with God's word? And as a good steward, no, so say yes say ade a ba be no e be say Yankopon die ni mo nyama. The number 2 statement why any say pre-creative purpose. The perpetuation of human family is one of God's purpose of human sexuality. Though it may be inferred that marriage are generally intended to yield offspring, Scripture never presented procreation as obligation for every couple in order to please God. However, divine revelation placed a high value on children and expressed the joy to be found in parenting. Matthew 19:14 and Psalm 127 verse 3. Bearing and rearing children helps parents to understand God and to develop compassion, caring, humility, and usefulness. The upper or second statement is trust him adding and kind of prefer say or say our phobia and wo. Nanso Emma our for kunya momuti nyankopon ase, because when you are bringing up a child, Emma will take nyankopon ase and Emma will dosronko. Now the third statement, any 4th statement no will answer the question. Or see, unifying and purpose. Sexuality serves as unifying purpose in marriage that is God's ordained and distinguishes from the procreative purpose. Sexuality in marriage is intended to include joy, pleasure, and delight. God intends that couples may have ongoing sexual communion apart from procreation, a communion that forges strong bonds and protects a marriage partner from an inappropriate relationship with someone other than his or her spouse is against God's action. In God's design, sexual intimacy is not only for the purpose of conception. Scriptures does not prohibit married couple from enjoying the delight of conjunctual relation while taking measures to prevent pregnancy. So what is here? Now, this is where the point is. Number 4, which is the last one. Freedom to choose. In creation, again, through the redemption of Christ, God had given human beings freedom of choice, and He has asked them to use their freedom responsibly. It is divine plan. Husband and wife constitute a distinct family unit, having both the freedom and the responsibility to share in making determination about their family. Married partners should be considerate of each other in making decisions about birth control or birth, being willing to consider the need of the other as well. I had to summarize everything, making sure when the General Conference releases a statement that he wants you to understand a share by a footfall, which one is good for you, but the utmost point it should be a decision from the two angles. Now the Bible makes it clear, whatever two of you, the couple, decides, that is best for you, having accepted. It is a moment, say hysterectomy, your friend hysterectomy, or say stop you, no. Say no never buamu na. No na be ya mamwa, fine. Na se be se nyankopon din mo nyam so fine. Na so kwan a mo be fa so aye no, hwe na antia nyankopon asem. Na hwe na it wouldn't go against God's will. Nti kwan pa mo be fa so no. Na so nyankopon so esa hwe se yen awofo no ye benya enigye. And easy no more, and our more pepano, a more choice and say choose into woshe, or be kind, while shall leave any or bra woman, several boa, you go for it, same boa on so when one young coupon into myself, Madame Massey.
Pacho, there was a last question I think that I missed in the chat. The question is it good to be taking well woman? Pacho, well woman, no, are you talking about the vitamin and probiotics, no?
Yes.
Okay. It wouldn't hurt to take it. It's better than not taking any vitamin B. It's okay. But if you are looking for a very good probiotic, I always tell people, say don't buy the ones over the counter. No. Excuse me. Don't buy the ones over the counter. No. If you go to any pharmacy, if you want the best probiotic, you go to any pharmacy, you walk into the pharmacy. Walking into the pharmacy, there's a brand of medication called Floragen. It's Floragen. Floragen. Omo a memadie, omo a MAR-10, and then omo bakubia. You're trying to say acidophilus. So there are 3 different types: women's, men, and then the acidophilus. So it's usually in the fridge. We keep it in the fridge in the back of the pharmacy. You do not need a prescription for it. You don't need a prescription. It's probably, I think it's about $24.99 to maybe $29.99 for a bottle of 30 capsules. They are the best probiotics on the market. The ones over the counter, no, some form of relief. But if you want the very best probiotic, especially the women's now, go to any pharmacy, go to the pharmacy, you ask for Floragen, say technician, baby, tell them it's in the fridge. They should check the fridge and see. You also need to keep it in the fridge while you're taking it. It's the best one out there.
All right. Yeah, better questions, no contributions, I said, your time no copy. I bet that I say, you better Dr. Patricia Trey as a part for this educational informational program or the Maya. Now I know say some of us and most of us relate to this topic, and some lessons or words of wisdom from this program. Yeah, better not say. The answer that I assist in a bad program is so money with all our questions and contributions. Asset. Now my son so add that Yonkodoradio for so access that every Sunday be a program no mobile so ever record the MIN na recording no recording not recording here ready. We can find it on the Queen's Women Ministry line so. And I say Yonkodoradio from YouTube channel and so you can find it there. Na month and we can share the link with them, and I say we can refer them to YouTube channel and almost program that or massipa and timpachoye no pachoye sister na mama Christian and Ponsan pacho baby I want ya obetimi abompaye amaye close the program now.
Agyedifoɔ moma yɛmmɔ mpaeɛ. Ade nyinaa so tumfoɔ na no nyame anwummere nso ɔma adebɔnyɛfoɔ yɛkɔ so da wo ase. Yɛda wo ase a na wo sɛ na wo fata san sɛ wo ne adi mu yie. Papa yɛda wo ase paa sɛ daa ne daa woyi nimdeɛfoɔ na ɔmbɛkyerɛkyerɛ yɛn mmaa yi kwan a yɛfa so a yɛbɛtu mpɔn wɔ asetena yi mu a yɛwɔ yi. Yɛda wo ase papa yɛserɛ wo. Nea yɛte nyinaa yɛserɛ wo sɛ yɛhu yɛ mmɔbɔ na yɛnhyɛ ne nso na yɛntim mfa ntena ase bɔne wiase yi mu. Ɛtɔ da a ɛma yɛwɔ haw bebree wɔ yɛasetena mu nanso yɛ a na yɛnnim ɛnnɛ yi a wɔma w'afoa abɛyi n'adi adi akyerɛ yɛn. Sɛ yɛwɔ saa problem no a papa yɛserɛ wo sɛ ma asɛm yi ɛntena yɛn mu na yɛkɔ mu a yɛde akaakaa yɛadwene na yɛahu sɛdeɛ yɛbɛsi atena abɔ yɛn bra. Papa hu yɛn mmɔbɔ saa. Yɛda w'afoa so ase sɛ ɔbɛyi nsɛm a te sɛ yɛadi ɔde akyerɛ yɛn. Hu yɛn mmɔbɔ na daa ne daa ma wɔn ahoɔden na yɛto yɛn nsa frɛ wɔn a ɔmɔtumi abɛkyerɛkyerɛ na yɛne a yɛnnim yi yɛtumi de bi ato yɛ kotodwam yɛde ayɛbɔ yɛ bra bɔne wiase yi mu. Na yɛn ho nama yɛ ahoɔden sɛdeɛ daa ne daa ɛduru saa kwasiada na enum time yi a yɛn nyinaa yɛmmɔ werɛde na yɛmmra la yi so yɛmɛtie asetena mu nsɛm a ɛbɛtumi aboa yɛn wɔ bra a ɛnkyɛ na wɔba yi mu. Awurade hu yɛn mmɔbɔ na ka yɛn ho. Bra a yɛfiri la yi so yi Awurade yɛmfiri w'anim o yɛda so wɔ w'anim. Ma wohyɛn no ɛntɔ yɛn so papa hyira yɛn nyinara ma yɛn ahoɔden sonko. Hu yɛn mmɔbɔ na ka yɛn ho sɛ yɛn ho mma asɛm. Deɛ obi biara na mo ntutuo si nea ɛko. Hu yɛn mmɔbɔ na tie yɛn mpaebɔ san sɛ yɛbusa wei nyinaa wɔ yɛn Awurade ne yɛn Agyenkwa Yesu Kristo din mu. Amen.
Amen.